Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hope you're doing well today. Let's cut the cards, see what we got. It's a beautiful day. I wish I could capture how the sun is just like beaming through my window right now. It's so energizing. I can't even explain it. And I want to start by sharing my tea bag for today because it's one that I've never had before, and right now it's my favorite of all time. And it reads as follows: Give thanks for unknown blessings that are already on the way. Come on, somebody. You gotta feel that. You got to feel that. Let me take a sip. Overdid it with the honey today, just a tad. I hate when it's not sweet enough. Spirit's like, yes, you did. I hate when it's not sweet. That's so funny. That's not when it's not sweet enough, but when you do just a little too much honey, if you're a tea drinker with honey, you know what I mean. It's like the sweetness is all good, but when you tasting more honey than tea, it's like, all right. But I rather that, honestly, than it be bland. So anyway, we have the Ace of Swords here and the Queen of Swords. All right, that's divine truth and clarity. Let's see what else we got. And in her upright, the most honest, shall we say, queen in the deck, intelligent, communicative, direct is the Queen of Swords for sure. She don't take no shit, and in the upright, she don't give none either. She shoots straight from the hip, as you can see with her sword by her side. She can be a bit emotionally detached, which is how she can be very objective in her perceptions and her interpretations of reality, and in that regard, in her transmissions, i.e. communications of such. Again, honor, truth, wisdom. I mean, the Queen of Swords, sometimes in my readings, depending on how she comes up, she can get a little bit of it just depends how she comes up. But her coming up with the Ace of Swords is pretty interesting. That doesn't happen often in my readings. That's a great, that's a solid indication of, what would I call this? Like, I hear spiritual receipts. I'm seeing it as the sword of truth being passed down to her ethereally, but of course with having proven herself to be honorable to receive it. So some clarity's been revealed to her in regards to what is and isn't in her reality, and perhaps even beyond just her scope of things, because she does have a very expansive view, I would say, when it comes to logistics and projections and things of that sort. Like, she has one arm open because she's open to communication. She's open to hearing points of view, or even to perceiving other ways of seeing something. But ultimately, she has her own perspective. She's grounded by that, and she can make a very definitive decision based on what she feels is true. She's not very easily finessed emotionally, for sure. She's not induced to react or respond by way of her passion or even her ego, I would say, in a great regard. With these two here, I'm speaking you know, the Ace of Swords is um, a powerful combination with the Queen of Swords. That's why I'm kind of going in a little bit. So in the energetic sense, she's not impulsive or compulsive. She's going to take her time, weigh all the options, consider the facts, and then make a choice or make a decision or final. I'm hearing final ruling is what I just heard. Definitely in line with Libra energy, which we know is about justice, and any air sign you could probably plug in there, but Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. You know, so there's Gemini, which is all about truth telling for sure, and finding the facts, you know, more or less of things and communicating them accordingly. And then there is Aquarius, which is just like a deep inner knowing, you know, and then Libra's kind of sandwiched there in the middle, which is the communication piece, the cause and effect, the call and response, you know. So it all, any of those air signs definitely being, I would say, induced, or what's the right word? Magnified? No, those aren't the words I'm looking for. It's like they are highly functional in their own regard, but then to put some spiritual power behind it is just, it's like, it's clairvoyance. Thank you, Spirit. Okay, clairvoyance, just being able to see not just what's in front of you, but in between the lines, beyond what's happening now, perhaps what happened before, and, you know, having almost like a 360 view. That's what it is. And with the 3 signs, that makes sense. Got it. Clairvoyance here. Wow. Okay, well, that's a powerful way to start, isn't it? Wow. That's why she can be so certain of her perspective and her decisions, because her intel comes from an intangible source. So ain't nothing in earth fucking with that. You know what I'm saying? When you got spirit whispering in your ear, it's like you could come over here talking that talk if you want to, but what she's gonna do is she's gonna take that sword and chop your story right down the sides, and not necessarily in a in what am I trying to say? Like in an offense. Well, I mean, sometimes her words can cut like a knife, yes, but not in an aggressive way per se, but it being objective is what I'm trying to say. Like just get into the bare bones, the truth, the facts and figures of it all. Like she's going to cut around the fluff, and all that'll be left is what is real. Okay, so now we got the Chariot card here. That's about moving forward. Okay, come through, Holy Spirit, today. I might do 5 on this row. That's what I'm feeling, but we'll see. The Chariot, the Queen of Pentacles. Ooh. High value queen in the deck. Chariot, hold up, because we got the Chariot. You know, these days the Chariot can be authorities, but you know what I'm seeing it as? I'm seeing it as like an escort, a police escort today. Because like I said, this is the high value queen, and like she needs some security. She carrying big money, or she just is big money. You know, like this might be you getting ready to secure your assets upright because of this going on right here, always and forever. Or I'm actually hearing it as the past cycle. Yeah, because this is the 10 of Swords. I am going to do 5. Let's see what's on the other end of that 10 of Swords. The 10 of Swords is the completion of some cycle of sabotage, or perhaps a great betrayal. So this is why she needs security, because she is a high profile figure, and she perhaps has been under attack before. I just heard the bodyguard. I heard the bodyguard. So this is someone who's had threat to her existence before in some way, shape, or form. And it's interesting that it's also by way of the swords, which is why she's so defensive, but also why she has physical and spiritual security. You know, it's like her defense mechanism is her intuition and her clairvoyance. And she also, in the physical sense, has protection, guidance, security, probably maybe literally, or it may become needed too. You know, some of you out there, as the T-Bag says today, begin to give thanks for unknown blessings that are already on the way. And yesterday was definitely a powerful message about windfalls of abundance and just a new change of luck in your life. And you know, that comes with a great you know, that's a big price tag on your life. You know, not that it hasn't always been, but it most certainly is now, because it's not just energetic, it's becoming more material. You know, it's becoming harder to conceal the wealth and the prosperity that you express and exude. You know, you may be moving into a different tax bracket or a different life experience, you know, a different, I don't even know how to say it, like, you know, you might be making a drastic change in your financial foundation, and not for nothing, you can't ride around in a hoopty just trying to evade potential, you know, schemers and scammers in whatever regard they may be watching. You know, like, you have to live your life. You get to live your life. You get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You get to enjoy the gifts and the blessings and the material favor that has been bestowed upon you in one way, shape, or form, and still feel secure to do so. Not being, you know, overly indulgent or boastful in ways that are out of integrity, you know, but because of the world that we live in, and because of the imbalance as it is between the haves and the have-nots, more in the spiritual essence than even in the physical form, but of course we know that's how it manifests, it's important that where once upon a time you may have felt safe and secure to just walk into you know, your local market or your local department store or mall or restaurant or wherever the case may be, without any, if not without physical security, without the thought of just being you know, almost energetically putting a protective shield over yourself. You know what I mean? Like, to have that no nonsense, I'm open-hearted, but I ain't for no nonsense type of energy. Because sometimes, I know, speaking for me, like, before the past few years, I definitely, in a lot of ways, kind of just skipped through life, you know. Well, I won't say through just the past few years, you know, living in New York as I did for about 6-7 years definitely will change your energy, you know, like, you become more aware. But at the same time, when you live in New York, everything is always bustling. So I often share with people that the things that I wouldn't do in, say, my little small city now, or in the small town or state that I live in, I would absolutely do in New York, in a place that seems more of a threat, like walking around at night by yourself, taking the train by yourself, you know, going to different places solo, you know, like, it's just a different vibe there, where everybody's always moving around, and sometimes it is by yourself, so you kind of never really feel alone. But because of that, you know, it's like, you can't really transfer that carelessness to a place where coming back home to my home city, I wouldn't necessarily do that. I'm very cautious about going out after a certain time and who I go out with, especially with my son. I just am, and you would think here or in New Jersey, period, it's really not that as much of a threat as it would be in a big city like New York. But all that to say that some of the ways that you may have moved, I wouldn't say carefree, but maybe mindlessly or careless. That's kind of worse, huh? Maybe not careless, more so carefree. Yeah, more carefree is a better term, where you just don't think about it. You don't think about running out late night because you've been here all your life, or you know these streets, or you know the neighborhood, or it's just little old you going to the movies, on a Saturday night, or little old you wanting to have a shopping day at the mall, or whatever. Like small little things may require more thought, more care, even if, like I said, it's more just a projective energy, to be mindful of giving yourself a protective force field before you enter into the world. Not to be paranoid and not to be overly protective or, afraid to come out and about, but because it is more of a social season, even in Scorpio and throughout the rest of the holiday season, you're going to ultimately be out and about more than you typically would. And with this heightened sense, even as is exemplified here, of energy, and that's just happening universally. That upgrades are happening. We just went through a major one with the solar eclipse. And, we have a lunar eclipse coming around the bend. So there are a lot of intense, that's why I'm saying this, I think mostly, because there are a lot of intense vibrations. Look, the devil's here all up in the midst. And it might not be a direct threat to you impending, but people are not necessarily on the vibration of vitality and truth and prosperity that you exude. They might be looking more for a lick or an opportunity to come up off of where you are, because, the disparity, unfortunately, of many of the upgrades is definitely some downgrades, for lack of a better word, energetically. For some, everybody's getting what they've harvested. So everybody's getting what they've sown. So everybody's harvest doesn't look the same. There's a great disparity in the magnitude of it all, because it's very personal as to what you've been investing your time and energy in over the past life, most generally, but more specifically, or even just over the past decade or so, So I think that's the mindfulness. Like, she's very intentional, and this is not just watching over your money, because you may want to be thoughtful of that too. I've said it before, flexing in places that you draw more attention to yourself than what's positive, or than what is productive, I would say, that might put you in harm's way, or just putting yourself in spaces, i.e. even a disparity here with the Queen of Pentacles and the Devil, putting yourself in the throes of temptation. Like, I like the saying, keep people honest, so I'm not going around with all my jewels and, my most expensive car and pulling out hella money and flashing, the finest in spaces that people are desperate in and would have justified impulsion to want to, and I mean justified by way of the obsession for survival that we all innately have, but some are more intensified than others based on circumstances. So you wouldn't go into those environments almost taunting people like, rob me, stick me up, type of thing, when you know that there's a despair there. If you, and I'm not saying that you gotta hide your blessings or hide your good life, but you do get to be mindful, because there's a great responsibility that comes with being someone of high value, that you get to protect it at all costs, from making poor decisions in your own regard and how you invest the energy, but also from how you expose that energy from outside influences and forces. And right here we got the Devil card and the Ten of Swords. That's definitely some, and I definitely heard past betrayal when it came out. So it's like, you know, this is betrayal and sabotage. It could be even self-sabotage before, with money and with ways of protecting yourself, as I kind of spoke about how because the Pentacles energy can be, the Pentacles can be energy and time. So, you know, just like I said before, not being the most mindful about how I exposed myself in certain environments. I'm not like that anymore. You know, like New York definitely put a spin on things, but even coming back to where I am, put a different spin on things too, but even in a more aggressive way, you know, where I'm even more intentional about how I protect myself and where I go and when I go and who's going to be there and whom I'm going with and all that good stuff. So it's from past experiences that you get to learn how to basically create stronger boundaries. But for some of you, it's very much specific to, you know, not just figurative, but literal, that there may be some extra security measures needed, whether it be at your home, having more of a secure traveling objective when you're moving around, you know, being more alert of your surroundings. It could be on your finances as well, like certain securities on your actual accounts and investments in the material way, because people be lurking. They do. And it's definitely spiritual. You know, above all, it's definitely spiritual. And you know what else I'm getting? Because we led with the sword energy, to protect your mind field. That's probably, you know, beyond spiritual, the way it begins to manifest is, you know, because for me it's cups, then swords. But the way it begins to manifest is through the mind space. So what you're telling yourself about your reality, how safe you are, or how unsafe you are, you know, how you may even be projecting some past experience of fear onto your present reality that doesn't really apply. You know what I mean? That yes, you may be able to learn to create strong boundaries, but the threat itself may be less impending than it can be perceived to be in the wrong frequency. You know, like literally almost creating the obstruction and the threat yourself, because you know that it existed before. You know, like that's like being afraid, in fact, the opposite of what I've been saying. Well, the lower dynamic of when you are afraid to go out and live life at all because of all the things that I said. You know, like you don't want to go outside, or you never go have a good time, or you're afraid to spend your money because you're afraid to lose it or be poor, or, you know, you're afraid to share your ideas or express yourself creatively because you don't want things to fail in some regard or be attacked in some way. You know, like that's a different vibration that I'm seeing in regards to the swords, that you get to kind of stray away from, you know, because as I said, okay, yeah. And because as I said, what this implies is that, damn, it's a lot of queens out here. What it implies is that you already are protected. You have the intel. You know what I mean? The clairvoyance, like to be able to see beyond the unseen, is a great gift. And then to have the intelligence to know what to do with that information, and then let alone the resources to take, you know, to take action, or perhaps even put some protective measures in place in some regard, because the Queen of Pentacles is definitely a nurturer, you know, in her own way. Like she takes care of self and her surroundings. So you got that on your side too. Now we got the Queen of Cups here and another 10 on the board, which signifies that two endings of struggle, or potential threat have emerged at this point. That is the reality of now. So having the Queen of Cups here speaks to the emotional intelligence that works hand in hand with the logistical intelligence, the intellectual and the spiritual coming together on one accord, so that the things that often sometimes aren't as easily seen, even though we talked about clairvoyance, but the things that may not be materialized enough to be visualized, you can sense in your being. Like your natural being can take cues from what you're feeling and make decisions on whether or not there's a need to react or respond. In this case, in terms of protecting yourself or moving in a different way, or excusing yourself from an environment, disconnecting from some person, place, or thing, whatever it needs to be, is because you're pretty much ultimately, look, she's in the midst of betrayal and hardship, struggle. So it's like a confirmation and an affirmation that what you can't see, you'll feel, and you'll know what to do about it. So even more doubling down on the fact that there needs to be no fear in expressing yourself. And then you got the physical protection over here, which I love how it's with the actual Queen of Pentacles, who's the material queen, because again, that's just saying that you are more protected in the natural than you may even realize. People watching over you in the physical form beyond what you can do for yourself intangibly, right? But you actually have people in high places that are covering you. And it's happening in spirit and in truth. So you got the Queen of Cups, who's very intuitive. She is guided by her intuition. But I love that, of course, we led with the logic of it all, because sometimes being guided by your intuition feels a bit unstable in some regard. It does. And sometimes it even appears to be, even though it's really not, because if you learn that you can trust yourself because you have the evidence of why you should, then that helps to strengthen your intuitive nature, to really be able to trust yourself in situations where it's not so visible or tangible. So it's a great space, and it seems to me that it's even more powerful in the midst of these two, threats of, what do I want to call it? Instability in some way, shape, or form, like threats to security. There it is, threats to security, because that means that you'll enter a space or you'll be in connection with the person, and your spidey senses will go off, and you'll know, like, this don't feel right. If you ain't got no actual physical security in sight, you'll know I gotta go, or practically so, like, this isn't the business deal for me. This isn't the job for me. This isn't the place that I need to be in. This isn't the relationship, because this is definitely love vibes. This is not the relationship for me. And it may not mean that it's necessarily bad, but we're being put in the position to be, that's why all the queens are coming up, to be in a sovereign space, like a sovereign security and spirit, like supreme, what did I call it the other day? Supreme independence. That's what it is. Like supreme independence, which all in one word is sovereignty, but sometimes, sovereignty can be kind of big. It's like, what is that really? You know what I mean? And it could be relative to however you see it. Some people in the religious aspect don't favor that word because only God is supposed to be sovereign. by most religious standards, or at least by the religious standard that I'm most related to, which is Christianity. It almost feels blasphemous to perceive yourself to move in any sovereign regard or state of being, because we're used to relenting our energy, our authority to a source and a force outside of us. But the other day I was listening to a reader. Her name is Cleo Ra. I like her. She's from the UK, and she says something which is like, it's not necessarily an aha moment because I subscribe to this ideal, but I also find myself saying the opposite, where she said that she's kind of stopped her, she's reconditioning herself from saying her higher self, as if the self that she aspires to is beyond her, or is in some distant place, because then it makes it unreachable, and you're disconnected from it in reality. And she's starting to say more her inner self. And I really like that, because I've even said that, well, for me, I like the supreme self. That's what I took away from it, as far as how I'm going to invest my energy into shifting my perspective in that regard. Because I do agree with her that when we say higher self, it does separate us, and even in the Bible, if we want to examine the scriptures, it says that nothing separates us from the love of God. All types of things that could be separative, but that are ultimately not. And it also says, as a scripture that I posted days ago, that the power works from within us. So it's not really an outside in or above so below type of thing. It's from the inside out. You are navigated from your inner being and your inner knowing. Whatever, especially when we're talking about, say, clairvoyance and gifts, a lot of times the intel is not necessarily outside of you. Sometimes you can connect with synchronicities that ultimately affirm what you're knowing or what you're perceiving, but it's a very much so internal thing. When we're talking about intuition, it's like her looking into this cup, water, it's reflective, it's internal. She's looking into this pentacle because the value is inside of her. She's holding the sword. And I love the affirmation of it from being from an ethereal space, but yet she's holding it because the truth is within us. Like, everything is bubbling from more within us, and everything outside is reflective of that. So what you're seeing is a mirror effect of what you're projecting. So the Queen of Cups in this position is able to secure her own protection just by way of listening to her inner knowing, secure her own value by listening to her inner guidance, and being conscious of her surroundings and how it affects her value, her essence. Same with the Queen of Swords. If you're in a space with practically so, I like to always bring it back down to the practicality. If you're investing your energy into a space where you leave and you got a headache, quite literally, you have a headache, that's a cue that maybe something is not working in your highest good or vibrating on your frequency in that space, or with people that give you a headache, or you're overthinking your experience or who you get to be within that experience. You know what I mean? Like, it's not free flowing and fluid. It's causing a lot of pressure and I don't know how to say it, and maybe I'm saying too much, but the point here is that you have the power within you to ultimately create whatever fortress or fortune or fortitude that is needed to guide you along the path. No matter what has been of the past, these two tens, and these are the most harsh endings of them all, of all the suits. The Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles are happy endings. So this is saying that the worst is clearly behind in terms of the threats on your security. And although you get to be more mindful, what you don't have to be is afraid. All right, so we got the Ace of Ace. The Page of Pentacles, that could be a message or a small investment or offer of some sorts, but it's definitely material. All right, let's see. Let's just get, whoa, that's way too many. But that was the Sun card. I'm going to say maybe a positive offer that perhaps seems a bit small. Okay, what's that? But it can bring a great investment, or a seed that is small that can be sown. Yeah, like that's great. That's a good investment ultimately. So despise not small beginnings, first and foremost. And this is, it could magnify into something wise and rewarding over time. Justice, under the devil energy. And you know what I'm seeing more so? I'm seeing this is more of opportunities to invest one to another, like either, because she's already the Queen of Pentacles, right? So that more or less I feel like there's a surpassing of this Seven of Pentacles energy, or maybe this is just the idea of how she gets to continuously invest for an infinite harvest in some regard. But I'm really seeing this more so as opportunities to either invest in others, because she has such a great resource, or is such a great resource in the Queen of Pentacles. Yeah, and the nurturing vibes too with the Page, that's kid energy. So to me, it's saying, is doubling down on being mindful of your investments, that it may be something that looks like, say, like a small startup, you know, and they're not looking to invest in you, but you have the resources to add value to it. Consider the longevity of your decision. You know, just because you got the money to do it, and it may not be any sweat off your back, you know, to throw a couple $100,000 towards someone, or even $1 million. Hey, you know, perhaps even so with the Queen of Pentacles, she got it like that. To throw a couple mil at a startup that has great promise could, in fact, grow in dividends and prove to be a worthy investment, but definitely use all the senses. That's what it's saying. Use all the senses to make even the most practical decisions. Thank you, Spirit. That makes a lot of sense. To make the most practical and fair decisions, because everything that looks good right here up under the devil may not necessarily, it may, you know, you could pass on people. It happens on Shark Tank all the time, where people pass on an idea and it ends up blowing up and making millions, and there's no love lost there as well. But perhaps it just wasn't meant for you to be the one to invest in that idea. You know, maybe it was for someone else to gain off that opportunity. And then in the other regard, of course, we're careful about what we allow. Some people may come to the table and want to invest in what you have going on because they see great value and promise in it. And perhaps the initial investment could make a difference in growing a harvest, but that could just be limited to a material investment or a material expansion. And just because it proves to be that, doesn't always necessarily mean it checks all the other boxes. You know, that it actually makes sense for your brand, and that it's in alignment with your integrity and your spiritual intentions. So all money ain't good money, pretty much. And every bright idea does not call for your coin to collaborate with. It could be great, but it doesn't. And you know, I think it's most important to say that because the Queen of Pentacles, like I said, is one that wants to nurture. She wants to grow things. She's motherly. She might see someone like, oh, I remember when, you know, I was just starting out and I only had a couple thousand. I would have loved for someone to drop a few $100,000 capital on me, and it would have made all the difference. So sometimes, like you could pull on the nurturing aspect of a Queen of Pentacles that just wants to help and see things grow. So be mindful that if you are that being, you got to use all the senses before you get pulled into something that may not be the best for you, even though it might even be work out well for that person, and not feel any sense of like really be secure, like I was saying before, like secure your assets for real, you know, be very intentional about securing your valuables, even in the material sense, not obsessively, but knowing that you worked hard for whatever that you have in spirit and in truth, and that you don't really owe anybody anything. Even if you feel compelled, it's not an obligation. Even if you can do it, there's no guilt or shame in saying no, you know, straight up. Yeah, so here we go. We got the Wheel of Fortune, that came out yesterday, which is destiny faded. And then we got the Page of Swords. Yeah, it's just like outside energy. Let's see what's on the other end of the Page of Swords. Justice is here, so, oh, snap. I'll take this one, but I ain't taking all that. And we got the Three of Pentacles. That's collaborations, perhaps work. Yeah, so people are still working on a way to perhaps get in on your fortune, you know, on your good luck, on your harvest. And these are all upside down, mind you, even though I'm not taking them this way, but this is a plan gone wrong or lack of planning. This is perhaps, well, it's a single, stable, secure person in the upright. So this is someone that is unstable, that perhaps is codependent. Maybe these are all the energies. Okay, this makes a lot. Thank you, Spirit. That's crazy. And it fell on this area most here. So these are the energies to kind of stay away from, I would say. And you know what? I'm just going to put them down here. I wasn't going to take them, but this makes hella sense just looking at it quickly. So these are the energies to steer clear from. Looking on the outside in, as it said, look, what's he looking at? But this good fortune. Some people are just looking to attach themselves or just benefit from, you know, from what you have to offer, and it's no harm, no foul. You know, the Page of Swords doesn't always have to be diabolical. A lot of times it can be, but for me, it usually is some ulterior motive, you know, as to why a person is observing so intently from the outside looking in, because everybody should be more invested in what they got going on in their own perspective. You know, it's like, okay to be inspired, but when you start to study someone to the point of, you know, almost stalking or just heavy observance, you can kind of lose sight of your own perspective, you know. So in this regard, he's looking at that Wheel of Fortune with great intent. And in the lowest vibration, plotting against it, in the highest vibration, inspired by it and wanted to know, you know, how he can acquire it himself. Now he's a page, so this is immature vibration, immature energy, just as the same with Page of Pentacles. So it might be someone that poses to want to be like an apprentice of sorts or a mentee, you know what I mean? Like, I'm speaking way ahead now, but maybe not, because perhaps you are, I mean, you just started with the Ace of Swords and the Queen of Swords. So maybe you are so advanced that you're in a position that you can actually teach us your ways, Master. And people want to know, like, they want to know, how did you do it? How did you overcome this great struggle, this great feat? How did you resist temptation? You know, how do you continue to resist temptation? Because her back is against the devil. And we know that the greatest temptation there is the love of money, or I would say the obsession of money and material things. So how do you stay upright and committed and devoted to your integrity in a world that projects to you everything but that? You know what I mean? So it is possible that because of how you have ultimately presented, you know, how you've ascended in this realm, that people do want to, not only do they want to watch, but they actually want to know with the sword energy. They want to know how you do what you do and how they can do it too. Like I said, just be mindful with the Three of Pentacles. It can always be this or that, people for you or against you. So it could present itself to be innocent, as I said, somebody that just wants to be a mentee or a shadow or an apprentice or even an assistant. I hear that, like, choose your assistant wisely. It got to be somebody that you vetted and that you would trust with your life, with the type of energy that I'm sensing here. You know what I mean? To have all three of the queens on the deck and the Wheel of Fortune, there's a great value here that needs to be protected. So just be sure that you surround yourself with the most integral people, you know. So the things to avoid: people that don't have a plan, that's the Two of Pentacles, Two of Wands in reverse, that don't, they may have a great idea, and it's interesting that it's here up under this this energy here. They may have a great idea, but don't necessarily have a plan of action, an outlook, a vision of how to accomplish that goal, some portfolio to reference, or, you know, some projections of some financial projections of where your money is expected to grow ultimately. So there's that, and this is the growth here. No projection of growth or independence. How is it that if we're talking about something practically or energetically, how is it that they'll begin to operate independently without being codependent on your resources? What's the outlook for that? This is that energy here. The Eight of Pentacles is someone that is secure and sound and stable in her own independent nature. She's not looking for a handout. She doesn't need to be saved. She doesn't need any assistance per se. She's content with what she's harvested and grown on her own. So how does that potential investment, or even you know, when you're considering, perhaps it could go the other way, if you're considering an investor into your business or idea or whatever the case may be, your estate, what's the projection of how you get to be independent from that investor, you know, that capital? How do you project to grow so that you can operate in your own standing, you know? And then we got the Six of Pentacles here, which is about balance, equal give and take. Under the Justice card, which is awesome, is almost like the opposite of fairness, you know. So something that I would say in this regard, anything that projects itself to be that you may not even see it. That's the interesting thing, though. That's why it's important to search the spirit before making even business decisions, because you may not even perceive on the surface. Like, what's coming to mind, for instance, is the whole DJ Envy scandal with the guy he was working with. I forget the guy's name, another Hispanic dude, his friend that he was working this real estate thing with, right? Now, I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, but it's very clear that something ain't clean in the milk. Now, Envy's knowledge or involvement, let alone, you know, not just involvement, but what do they say? Like accessory, I would say, to whatever the crime may be, allegedly, if it be so, is questionable. You know, I don't know. Envy, to me, kind of, I don't know. He doesn't strike me as someone that has exceptionally high integrity, but I believe that he probably just got mixed into something that he didn't think that would catch him up altogether, or that he was content enough not knowing enough about, you know, being hands off in a certain kind of way. But hence why I'm saying this now, because it's important to know all the ins and outs, depths, and highs, lows, and extensions of your energy and what's connected to it and what you're invested in, because he may not have known the depth of whatever this so-called scandal is but now he's guilty by association, just socially so. Ain't nothing even truly been investigated yet or proven him guilty, but just by association, and I think that's why I'm saying it, your business can be tarnished, your energy can be tarnished, your reputation can be bruised. You may have nothing. Say you invest in a company that is not upright, that is scamming or skimming off the top, or their morals and integrity again aren't in alignment with yours in the purest form. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad, but maybe how they source their product is not matching the standards of your ideals about sustainability and what do we call it, responsible resourcing and things of that nature. And now you're connected with that, and it's not even like you had your hand on the plow to make it happen, but because your name is affiliated, your business reputation or your energetic force is forged with this. So be mindful to know exactly what you're giving your money, your energy, your time, your attention to, people, places, and things, business, personal, professional, intimate, platonic, by association, even friends of friends, business associates of associates, because like I said, Envy might not even have known the depths of what was going on, but it was definitely, something's going on, and it's definitely going to be seen, So this is the Three of Wands, where to wrap that up, just don't be mindful, just stay clear of anything that's infringing upon the people. If it's not at a service, this is equal give and take, balance, justified order, fairness, harmony. If it's something that caused disharmony in the creation, or is on disenfranchising a certain group of people, or exclusive in a way that is just not constructive or productive. There's one thing to have, high-end products or something like that, and perhaps everybody can't buy it. But when it's infringing upon a specific community, or like I said, you gotta ravage the earth in order to resource to resource that product, that's energy that's out of alignment, and ultimately it could compel some negative karma to justify that order. Everything is going to be balanced, and it's not going to take as long now in this season, which is probably why I'm harping on the point, because many of us are about, what does it say? There are blessings that are on the way that you don't even realize yet. And after that reading yesterday, it's of great magnitude, which means there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of resources, perhaps even a lot of people, a lot of decisions that get to be made, a lot of moving parts, material, energy, and physical, and everything is coming to be. Is coming to the order of, of course, with respect to however you're living your life. It could be great or small, but there's an increase of influence that's happening in the earth. Wheel of Fortune is here, signifying it all over again. So ignorance is no defense, ultimately. We are all responsible, even more so now, considering I said this is about supreme independence, like sovereignty. When you're going to take responsibility and accountability for these great harvests, you're going to have to also take responsibility for any response or consequence of a mismanagement. So you just want to be clear, run it through all the channels, the clairvoyance, the clairsentience, the clairaudience, what's the other one? You need to be, it's claircognizant. That's this one for real. Claircognizant is all of them. You need to tap into all the senses that are activated in you, and whichever one isn't, pray that it can be. If you don't have clairsentience where you can sniff out something that ain't right, pray for it to come through. It'll be divine to you if you open to receive it. If you can't, clairaudience, where you can hear things that are not necessarily audible, pray it on in. It'll come to you. But this is more so claircognizance. It could be also clairvoyance as well, vision, seeing the future, or seeing distant, or understanding in a deeper way that's less tangible or less evident, I should say. But claircognizance is all of that thing. And I would definitely, it's using the intel of all of your senses. And I would say that's definitely what that represents even more so. So thank you for correcting me on that, Spirit. All right, last two, and then we're getting out of here. So 3 of Wands is about waiting for your ships to come in. And how I'm reading that is like somebody wanting something for nothing. You know, waiting for your ships to come in. And the 3 of Wands upright is basically having done the work by way of the planning and the effort and the 2 of Wands energy. And now you're just waiting to harvest from that sowing, you know, from that energy expelled. You're waiting on the return. You already executed your business plan, and now you're just waiting for the customers, or you're waiting for a marketing, you know, you're waiting for a response for, you know, whatever the case may be, whatever that response and reaction may be, you're in expectation for it because you've already done some great work toward it to manifest it. But in the inverse is somebody that ultimately expects, so like I said, something for nothing. They're not really willing to do the work and the planning. They may actually be looking to you to tell them what to do, or at least not looking to plan much, but are in expectation, almost having like a entitlement, I would say. Consider these 2 energies where they feel like you got it, or we family, or we've been friends for years, and you know I'm good for it. You know I've been having this idea all my life. You know I've been creative in this way. It's like, yeah, that's true, and I believe in you. I really do. But where's the plan? Where's the projection? Where, you know, what's the business model? What's the what's the word for like the when you're in your business plan, where it's like your like the creed of your business, you know, I can't think of the word right now, but basically like, what does your business stand on? The intention, the motivation. That's not the words, but you get me. This is someone that really hasn't well thought out all of those things, but they know you got the money. They know they had the idea or the ability, and they have an open hand to pretty much expect that you'll make the transaction or the exchange. You definitely want to pump the brakes on ideas like that, in spirit and in truth, again, because it doesn't have to be limited to business, but it's definitely giving business and prosperity vibes in this reading for sure. It could just be somebody that thinks because you're so well blessed under this Wheel of Fortune that you should take care of them. You know, that you should, they may not have any business to pour into. They may just feel like, you know, or feel an entitlement because of how there was an energetic exchange in the past, even like a friend or a family member, like, well, I've been here for you all your life. The least you could do is buy me a house, buy me a car, pay all my bills type of thing. But it's like, hold up, like, this is my money. Like that episode of Martin, it's my money, Miss Rodriguez. It's my money. You know, like, I won this. I worked for this. I earned this. I proved myself worthy of whatever this gifting, offering, blessing is. And it's your choice, my choice, whomever's choice, to disseminate it accordingly with discernment, you know. So don't be guilted into doing anything outside of what makes sense, you know. And this is the nail on the head here with the Knight of Wands in the reverse. This is someone that's lustful. In the upright, he's lustful. He can be lustful. And, well, I would say it's more so the opposite, because the upright, there's more of a chance for it to be more positive vibes, where someone's just a little bit overly ambitious and, you know, just a little bit wild in nature, unconventional, I would say, in their ambitions. Not to say overly, because even that can be imbalanced and be more in the lower vibration. But this is someone in the inverse that is overly ambitious. So they might have this idea or this passion, you know, unruly passion, I would say, to do something, to have something, even to just be wealthy and independent, just like you. They see it, they want it for their own lives. And so they're trying to figure out any way they can ultimately just obtain it, or I would say conquer it by any means necessary with this upside down night energy, but it's from a distorted passion. It hasn't really been tried and tested to be true. It's just like they want it. It could be like fly by night ideas, even, something that they just got, the idea to do, and they just want to jump out and get it done. And again, you have the resource, or even you, all of this could be you as well. So please take it how it resonates. These are the energies that you want to steer away from. Compulsion, impulsion, not thinking things through, considering all the components, just flying by the seat of your pants. You love it, you want it type of energy. You want to be careful of that. And I would say in an emotional sense, because it's here up under the Queen of Cups, be mindful of energies that want to connect to you in a lustful way for intimate reasons. For in that same regard, it could throw you off balance. If your love energy is thrown off, it could throw off your mental, and then ultimately can throw off your material. It all works in tandem. I always say tandem. I always want to say tangent. It all works in tandem. The only thing not here is the Queen of Wands at this time, but that's just the energy and the passion to, to create ultimately, to bring something to life, to add a life force behind. But that's like the last energy anyway, for the most part. Well, the Pentacles kind of is, but in this regard, it's an implication that you have resource. So the last thing that you want to do is act with it. You know what I mean? You want that to be the last thing that you do, is make an action or put something into play when you haven't thought it out, you haven't run it through your spirit, you haven't considered the facts and figures of it all, like the material evidence of it all and prospect of it all. Then you want to act, and that's what you want to do for anything that wants to invest in you, and anything that you have the opportunity or invitation to invest in, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically, psychologically. Your energy is the most valuable aspect of you at this time. It's invaluable, and whatever you connect it to can make or break. It can either flourish that value, or it can depreciate it, just by a matter of your decision making ultimately. So I'm done with that. Oh Lord, yeah. Let's see what's on the top. Okay. So let's see here. So what I've initially felt is that this is the energy. Okay, this is like survivor's remorse is what I'm hearing. To really stay clear of falling into guilt, shame, depression, lower vibrational energies that would pull on your heartstrings, even within you. It doesn't have to be an external influence. This can be internally, where you got all this, all this stuff to manage. You kind of have to detach from being emotionally influenced so easily, to the point where it weakens your energetic defenses from manifesting. Like I said, I kind of just said it already. If you're not in tune with all the aspects of it, and I said your spirit being first, right? You being too emotionally invested in the past, wanting to be in acceptance, wanting to love, others, wanting to pour into others, perhaps that aren't in a position to be poured into, that may not deserve it, that may not be in a position to fully receive it, and then, harvest it or manifest it accordingly. You could potentially put yourself to be in a more emotionally dissatisfied space on account of poor decisions. It could ultimately, like the energy that you invest emotionally could have, as I said, a direct effect on every aspect. This is the Magician. This is the cup, the sword, the wand, and the pentacle, and his own brand of magic on the board. Like everything is taken into account here. And if you're going to, this is someone that's looking back at the past and not seeing the fortune of the future. You know, seeing these two upright cups, maybe you can't go back to the hood and pull everybody out. Maybe there's some family members that you're not going to be permitted in spirit and in truth to take care of. It's about assignment in this season. You know, it's not about obligation. You know, it's who you're assigned to pour into or connect with or invest in or be invested from, or however you say that. You know, you could be looking at spilled milk, trying to pull people up by the bootstraps, or, you know, rooting for individuals that just are not in the alignment with this season with you, or with ideals. Let's not make it always about people, but we know sometimes people can definitely incite certain triggers, especially emotionally so. But it could be about ideals about yourself or emotional connections to places. You know, maybe it's time for you to move, but you feel an affinity for that hometown, or you feel that job, you know, you don't want to leave the job shorthanded. You know what I mean? Like how much you've invested yourself into things that ultimately have just run their course at this time. They've proven to be, for all we know, that could be spoiled milk or wine or whatever that he's crying about, that is of no value to his being holistically. But if that's what you're going to continue to think about, you're going to miss the opportunity for something more fresh and favorable for your future. You know, this is the future. The gifts that you don't even see coming yet are on account of the fact that you've been manifesting this, and it's going to feel like it came out of nowhere, but you may have perhaps been in a very depressive state, all the while still manifesting the best outcome for yourself. And now it's here. You can't be still looking back at what was lost or what had to be surrendered in some regard, or, you know, dare I say sacrifice, but I like surrender better, in order for you to be in a position where you have autonomy and authority in your material world. That's what the magician is. Someone that can bring anything to life with the resources that he has available, whatever he puts his mind to, because he's his own special brand of magic. That's what you've been ordained to do. This is like I said, this is what you don't see coming. This is already the ordinance that's in play. You just you may not have materialized it to its fullest extent. But what you're being prepared for in this season is like the foundation and the fortitude to be able to manage it all, so that you can continue to be a manifester, continue to multiply your investments, continue to multiply your harvest, because you have the security measures internally and externally in place to assure that it be so. You know, I hope that makes sense. It makes a hell of a lot of sense to me, but I feel like there's so much more I could say. But I won't, you know, and you know what? I'm just going to put this guy on top, because this is where we are right now. We're in the magician stance. We're not looking back at what's lost, because anything that is perceived to have been lost is ultimately a release for a gain. And definitely being that we're in Scorpio season, if there's any ending that has manifested at this time, is for the purposes of a new beginning, a rebirth, you know. So you definitely can't be crying over spilled milk over anything that has transitioned literally, or that is transforming even your own self. This is transformation season with Scorpio energy, where there are some things that you may be putting to rest about who you've been, who you are. Like I said before, the way you just used to walk about the planet, carefree, footloose and fancy free, you know, not even thoughtful about any impending danger or threat or possibility of, you know, of opposition in the world. And now, because the stakes are so much higher, there's so much more to be protected, you just move with a different mindset. And there's nothing wrong with that. What Jay say? I'm sorry, what'd he say? If I hadn't changed, damn, what's that line that he says? I had to change, or Oh man, I can't even think of it, but I'll find it and maybe I'll post it under the video. But anyway, I think you know what I mean, especially if you know Jay-Z. Sorry, mama, the money changed, so I had to change me, or some about change being inevitable is the point. You know, you can't stay the same in new conditions. You have to shift your mentality. It's like you can't take a poor man's mentality into prosperity. There's no synergy for that. That's ultimately what it comes down to. You know that, and if people around you may want to accuse you of getting brand new or being on a high horse, or you know, whatever those accusations may be, that ultimately can cause some emotional disfavor or dissatisfaction, because you don't want to be disconnected from the people, places, and things you love without justification for it. But sometimes it is justified, and it's just the evolution of creation, that new spaces are being created for you to transform into the you that you've been divine and designed to be. And it doesn't necessarily happen where you were, in the mindset that you were in, with the people that you were with, doing the same old things that you were doing. You want a new harvest, you kind of have to have a new head, a new mind space, a new energy, a new spirit, a new intention and inflection about your material world, perception of your material world. It just, total transformation is what's in order, and none of it is a bad thing. If it's fallen off of you, it's served its purpose. All you can do is be in grace and gratitude with whatever is transitioning, and celebrate new life in every way, shape, and form. All right. So in spirit and in truth, I pray your transitions be as graceful as possible. Change is never easy, but it can be graceful. And I pray that it's joyful, you know, in any regard, that you enjoy the experience of transition and transformation and transcending to new heights and new levels. You know, I pray that it's fun for you, you know. So anyway, that's all. Thank you for listening and watching. I know that this probably is a little longer than an hour, which I'm trying to stay confined to. But as I said, I don't have any incense. I'm waiting for some in the mail. So I don't have a timer that's really keeping me in line right now. So for those that hang in there with me through the longer messages, I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. If you clicked on, definitely like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever you feel guided to do. But thank you for being here nonetheless. And until next time, I leave you as always with peace.